Hello everybody, what is going on? I am happy to say that it's finally here. Back to the Future review, finally here. I've been planning to do this for a long time, and I don't know why it took me so long, but anyway, here it is. And I have to say also that, I don't own this movie on DVD, so it was actually fairly hard to find some footage, so I had to settle with the internet. So, if some of the footage looks kind of, well, sketchy or something, or maybe it's out of the ordinary, that's probably why. Anyway, also, because it was from the internet, it was very limited, and I couldn't find all the footage I want. So if you're complaining that some footage wasn't in the video, then too bad. It just wasn't because I didn't have too much. I didn't have too much footage to actually get through searching through the internet. Most of these clips were found from movie clips on a YouTube channel called Movie Clips. I can tell that this channel is going to be extremely helpful when finding some movie clips. And the problem is that sometimes they have the weirdest clips. Like, sometimes they have clips that really didn't need to really have their own, they didn't have to be there. I just feel like sometimes they choose the weirdest clips. But anyway, they're still a pretty big help. And they had 10 different movie clips for Back to the Future, and that's a really good thing. Uh, that's it for the intro. So let's finally get this review on the road. So, Back to the Future. It's a 1985 film with a time travel film and a film with teen elements. Of course, I haven't watched a lot of teen films, but this really isn't much of a teen film, but it has teen film elements. It's also a comedy film. It has some really good humor. Uh, when it with time travel films, their plot makes absolutely no sense, and why even bother trying to make time travel films make sense? Like, of course, it makes no sense how Lorraine and George don't realize that their son Marty McFly looks exactly like someone they met in high school named Marty. Uh, don't even try to make any sense. Don't just go with what you have because you're never going to piece it up together, and it's just going to come up with a bunch of theories and all that stuff. But anyway, the story is that Marty McFly starts out as a below average kind of outcast because his family is so insanely like an outcast, and it's pretty much ruled by Biff Tannen. Uh, he has a girlfriend though, and that's kind of a highlight. Doc he hangs out with someone named Dr. Emmett Brown who manages to invent time travel. However, he stole plutonium from some terrorists, and they come back to get their revenge by shooting him down. Marty McFly tries to get away from the terrorists by using the DeLorean, a car in which Emmett Brown used a DeLorean to make a time travel device out of, and he accidentally goes over 88 miles per hour, which is the required amount to go into the future. So or past. So he ends up in 1955, where he meets his mother and father. Once he makes it to 1955, he meets his father and mother, and he accidentally takes his father's place as the person who his mother actually loves and is affectionate for. He does meet Dr. Emmett Brown, who at first doesn't believe that he's actually from the future, but after he tells him how he made time travel possible, he believes him, and now they have to try to get him back to 1985. However, they realize that Marty McFly will disappear from existence if he doesn't get his parents back together. So, that's what he needs to do. he fails and fails to get George to fall for Lorraine, and most of the time Lorraine just kind of falls for Marty, and it's pretty weird, but the movie also knows it's weird, so that's enough of that. Anyway, so Marty takes Lorraine to a dance and to try to get their friendships resolved, or try to get the George and Lorraine together, and he does do it, but Biff Tannen actually tries to, do some horrible things to Lorraine, and is stopped by George, who finally stands up to Biff after all the years of being bullied around by him. And George takes Lorraine to the dance, and Marty is able to come back to existence as well as his siblings are too. He tries to tell Dr. Emmett Brown that he will be shot by terrorists in the future, but he refuses to even listen to anything about the future. So he goes back in time, setting himself 10 minutes before the actual event of Dr. Emmett Brown getting shot by terrorists, but he's too late. But it turns out that Dr. Brown was wearing a bulletproof vest. And Marty goes back to his family, which has actually improved greatly since he went back in time. So it seems like all is well until Dr. Brown comes back from the future to tell Marty that his kids are actually not in some kind of danger or something's wrong with them, and they go to the future. As a story, this movie has a lot of positives. It's a time travel movie, so it's not going to make any sense, so I'm not even going to try to piece this thing together. However, the cliffhanger at the end leaves you with question like what the future is actually like, and it has a nice ending, or like ending, or like an infinite loop ending where it's not all where the main plot's resolved, but there's like another adventure ahead. It's basically like here we go again plot. It's mainly an underdog story or an outcast trying to fit in, like where Marty McFly is sort of an outcast at the beginning, and then his family improves once he goes back in time, and how George McFly also can't stand up to Biff Tannen, who is pretty much his bully and has been bossing him around all the time. And it's so satisfying to see these two characters actually get what they were working for, and Dr. Brown is actually pretty humorous, especially with his dialogue with Marty. Lorraine is played mostly as a goal for something to get, but other than that, she's cool. Uh, Biff Tannen is the bad guy he's sort of the villain. I guess the main villain is Time, but I guess he's the secondary villain, who is the bully or like the person who keeps on bullying George around, but then George finally stands up for himself and beats Biff. The story works as an underdog story where the outcast tries to fit in, and they do, and once they do finally fit in, they achieve their goal of like social acceptance, I guess. But no one really from Marty's school is actually seen. So it's an underdog story and a really good one, and even George McFly, one of the underdogs, gets the girl in the end. If there's any problem with the story, is that Lorraine McFly is played as only something for a goal to get, and also she falls in love with her son, but she didn't know it. But the movie also knows it's creepy, so it's not like it's an entirely thing exclusive on memes. Overall, the story is a great underdog story where the outcast tries to get their goal with some good humor, good special effects, and some good characters. As for the characters in Back to the Future, they are very memorable and, of course, pretty funny and have some nice moments and all have good stories. The characters are have kind the characters in this, any good movie has characters with their own story, and this has a character story as well as a main story, and that's always, and there's like two different stories with some of the characters and the main story, so it's really nice. It's really great to see that. It shows that the writers have more of can have their movies be more complex instead of being more basic. Uh, Marty McFly is the average outcast who becomes the hero and saves the day in the end. Well, he doesn't really save the day; he just goes back in time, but he does save his family, and it does really work. And it does really work for his like story arc. Dr. Emmett Brown is a character who invents time travel, and he gets killed by terrorists, and he helps Marty try get back to 1985 and get his parents back together, and is very smart. He's definitely the funniest character in the movie, and also has some sympathetic moments, especially when he dies when the terrorists come. Lorraine McFly is played more as like a goal for Marty to achieve. Well, not really Marty. For Marty to get George to achieve, and as Lorraine doesn't really do much important except date Marty. Um, but she does get together with George in the end, and George McFly has the best story arc as he gets he gets bullied and bossed around by Biff Tannen all his life until Marty finally convinces him to stand up to Biff and take Lorraine to the dance in probably one of the best moments of the film. Uh Biff Tannen is the basic villain who Biff he tries to he bosses around George and even bullies Marty a bit, but he does get his consequence in the end, and then in the future, Biff is actually the one being bossed by George, or as I should say, the family. So the characters, so there's pretty much two stories: Marty getting back to 1985 and George getting together with Lorraine. And like I said, when a character has their own story along with the main story, it doesn't even need to be the main character, which it probably shouldn't be because that just makes things really confusing. It makes everything it makes the movie more complex. You don't want it to have if the movie is too complex, that might mean that too much stuff is happening. But if the movie is just right, then it'll be perfect its for its plot lines, as it is for an underdog story. And that's when I really praise the characters for their for well, they're funny. They have great stories, except for Lorraine, and they all achieve their goals in the end, except for Biff, because I guess his goal was to bully around George McFly for his entire of his life, but that does get fixed. In the end, there is no denying that Back to the Future is a sci-fi classic. Who wouldn't want to watch this movie? Everything in this movie is done very well. From the story to the character stories, to the humor, to the special effects, to the acting, to the ending cliffhanger. This is definitely a well made and well put together movie, and that's why it gets a 96%. So, I've decided that I'll give you a little code for my next movie review, and if you're able to solve it, then you'll get what my next movie review is. So, anyway, goodbye, have a nice day, and yeah, just see you later.